Good morning, noon, evening or night, depending when you're watching this video. My name is Legend and welcome back to World of Tanks and the Look Back at series, where today we're going to take a look back at the Battle Pass Season 1 to Season 10. So the World of Tanks Battle Pass was introduced back in March of 2020, around the same time that the whole COVID pandemic took off. Coincidence or conspiracy? Well, joking aside, now we are 3 years and 13 seasons further. However, I want to take a look back at the first 10 seasons because it's a nice rounded number, and I'm curious what kind of verdict can be made about this implementation that has been within the game for already multiple years with those seasons. So we start off with the basics. The general premise of Battle Pass is quite known within the gaming world. Play games and get increasingly more valuable rewards over long but specific amount of time. Mostly a season of several months in which you can progress through levels, which mostly each level containing some rewards. This is a great method to reward players for just simply playing your game and keep them invested and motivated to go for the greatest rewards at the highest levels. However, the gaming industry wouldn't be the gaming industry if there wasn't a way to get a lot of money out of it. Otherwise, these trends we see over many games wouldn't be as mainstream as it is right now. Therefore, pretty much every Battle Pass has a premium purchase attached to it in the form of a premium Battle Pass. Or in the case of World of Tanks, the improved Battle Pass. Because of course Wargaming would go for this type of pass as well. Now at first sight this wouldn't be that much more troublesome. You get more rewards if you pay a bit extra for this feature. But hold your horses when we actually get to the actual rewards. Vehicle point limits. Now let's get back to specifically the World of Tanks Battle Pass, in which another neat feature has been added with limiting the amount of points you can earn for the Battle Pass for each vehicle. This encourages players to play a more diverse set of tanks instead of the same tank over and over again, because they get the best results out certain of those tanks. Although with 7 to 10 points maximum you can get out of each game, that would still mean that you need at least 15 games for a tank at tier 6 to reach that limit. Going through all the way up to tier 10 and you will need 100 games to reach that limit. This is per tank with a 100% win rate at the top 5 in the team on experience earned. So if you have a lot of different tanks on different tiers, like me, you'll mostly never reach that point limit, maybe only at tier 6 occasionally. But for more active players with a shorter selection, it's guiding them towards more diverse gameplay with different tanks. Core vehicles. Each Battle Pass season there are a couple of core vehicles which generally gain points faster and have an increased limit. It feels a bit like a toned down top of the tech tree, but the most important part is that you can earn 3D styles for those core vehicles if you can complete a section of the Battle Pass. These 3D styles got a progression feature later on where you can increase and decrease the amount of stuff that is put on those vehicles. I really like these highlights of particular vehicles and their 3D progressive styles they now also get, but I hope more obscure tanks, more light tanks and artillery, actually maybe not artillery, but more light tanks can get the stage, and also that the styles can be even more progressively diverse. I mean, make it so that you can pick which part of the style you want to add and which one you don't. So instead of having 4 progressively more flamboyant style stages, you can pick and switch between All 4 of those stages, having 4 different versions for 4 different stages, makes a total of 16 different combinations between those stages. Rewards! Now, next to the progressive reduce styles, there are a myriad of other rewards you can get out of the Battle Pass. I believe the reward pool has been relatively unchanged through the seasons, so most of the seasons you get your standard premium days, credits, personal reserve, crew books, blueprints, which are mostly earned through the Battle Pass, now that I think about it, several styles and decals. But most importantly, you can get those 3D styles, special commanders with unique voice lines, and a new type of equipment, bounty equipment, which are standard equipment that you can increase the statistics of by pumping a whopping 3 million credits into it, making them closely the same as bond equipment. This is the biggest issue I have with the Battle Pass, because not only do you have equipment that are statistically more equal to bond equipment, which you can get by paying for the Battle Pass and paying for that ludicrous amount of credits. So what's the point of bond equipment anymore then? At least those were only purchasable with a limited resource you cannot outright buy. Well, at least not in huge bulk. I mean, you can still get some extra bonds out of a premium account. And secondly, you can get a whole extra piece of equipment if you also pay for the improved Battle Pass. Yeah, this is where Wargaming's greed shines through this otherwise good implementation once again. Speaking about the improved pass, the complete cost is 6,500 gold, which equals to about 25 euros. This is quite average for a Battle Pass, but for the rewards you can get out of it, it's not like you get a new tank. And 20 days of premium doesn't really come close to that price. But at least you can upgrade one of your bounty equipments right away if you get the maximum of 4 million credit reward. And that is maximum, because in order to achieve all of these rewards, you have to either play a lot, but also buy up additional stages of the main progression for 250 gold each. So if you want to get all the rewards immediately, you have to pay up 17,750 gold or 60 bucks. Jesus. It's just too much paying up for just too much ludicrousy in the rewards. The bounty equipment I'm talking about, of course. So remove bounty equipment and make the improved pass a flexible price relatively to the amount of stages that you already completed. And only then you can keep that 250 gold per stage extra payments up. Elite progression. Now after 45 stages you're done, right? You get the 3D styles and all. Oh, but wait, there's more. You can continue in the elite progression with an additional 100 stages, each stage giving you bonds. But this time the value and price of each stage increases. Good endgame addition, but if you pay 25 euros you can immediately start grinding those bonds. Just like how you can get extra bonds out of the premium missions you get with the premium account. So yet another way to make bonds payable, which should never happen in the slightest. Now that we have covered the basics, let's look towards all of the seasons as a whole. For a feature for being so long in the game for many iterations, there are bound to be some differences between those iterations or seasons in this case. And there were mostly aesthetics and end goals, but sometimes other elements were added or changed. So let's go through all of the 10 seasons. Season 1, we've gone through everything this season had to offer, the basics pretty much. So we use this season as a basis for future seasons. However, nearing the next season, World of Tanks published a video called Showdown the Bridge, in which the commanders of the first season, Barton and Batayev, were featured in a short movie where they tried to work together against their enemies. At the end, the second season was a little bit teased, but generally this video started a mini-series that would sometime feature the special commanders of certain seasons. The follow-up season didn't see much change, only the standard changeable elements like tanks, which are now the TVP 5051 and the M48 pattern, with again unique commanders and different bounty equipment pieces. Season 3 was also a season that only saw changes with the tanks and commanders. However, from this season onwards, you now can choose your type of bounty equipment when you reach certain levels instead of just one type of bounty equipment. Passing through the next year in 2021, we start off with Season 4, and this season saw more changes towards the Battle Pass, since it was initialized with a new year with a new set of Battle Pass seasons. The main change being the introduction of Battle Pass tokens. With enough of those tokens, you can buy yourself a Tier 9 reward vehicle. This implementation was an amazing decision, giving full-on tanks for players that play a lot for free, or at least giving free earnable currency, is a top feature in my books. With the first set of tanks we already got introduced to 5, the AE Phase 1, Char Future 4, Object 777, K91 PT and the Konzepanzer. None of these tanks were particularly strong, but were all quite steady performance. All of them also had the unique feature of having an infinite repair kit built into them, so you never had to use repair kit consumables, which is also quite a good unique feature to add on. For my first pick I chose the Char Future 4 for its unique type of clip with the long intra-clip reload. But the most unique and most expensive, the Konzepanzer, featured a completely unique siege mode system where your accuracy got increased, but DPM alongside with mobility got decreased. A feature that we only have seen with one other tank since. Through the seasons, other Tier 9 reward tanks gets introduced, with the most expensive one having the most unique feature to incentivize players to play and go for the tokens, and also in that way spend more on the Battle Pass. Because of course you can get extra tokens with the improved pass, however with the alternatives being cheaper and reachable for casual players, I don't really complain on this front towards the improved pass. Another big change was the introduction of the progressive style. From this season onwards, the 3D styles you get are changing, adding more 3D elements to it the further you got in the stages. Another excellent implementation, giving more variation towards the 3D styles. Now, not everyone might play the Battle Pass tanks with the exact same 3D styles. However, it's still limited because you cannot turn on or off specific levels. Once you got towards level 4, you cannot turn off level 1 through 3. This only gives you 4 different versions of the style. And when Season 4 started, you couldn't even revert back to earlier levels. In my opinion, it would be far more interesting to turn on and off particular levels, like I've said before. So for example, you can turn off level 1, which is only featuring the 2D style on the tank, and keep the other 3D elements on. And that way you can still pick another 2D style to put under your 3D elements. This way you have at least 16 different versions that you can apply with a choice of 2D styles, and with the choice of 2D styles added to it, you can make a ton more of different versions for your tank's aesthetics. Lastly, we now got 3 core vehicles with 3 commanders this season. 2 of them we know from season 1, being Batayev and Barton, now driving in other tanks. Barton for some reason now joined the American forces instead of staying with the British vehicle, a bit weird. And as the 3rd commander, Zhang Ling was added as the Chinese commander. Now with the return of the duo BNB, another operation video was featured with the 2 alongside with Ling. Operation Needle. This video, however, is much more of an expanded one, both in time but also in storytelling. In order to find a mission recon plane in Antarctica, Colonel Barnes sent Barton and Batayev for a search and rescue mission. During the mission, they meet up with Major Ling. The 3 of them move further on to find this plane. However, Major Ling is being very hesitant and paranoid on the situation, and at one moment he finds it too risky to move further. However, Batayev, listening to his gut feeling, ignores orders and carries on, forcing Barton and Ling to reluctantly follow him to check on his safety. Ling remarks that Batayev is not responsible for a successful recon mission. However, this fueled Batayev insight that there's more going on, since Colonel Barnes ordered them for a search and rescue operation, not a recon mission. Eventually, connection with Batayev was broken. Barton and Ling now going further into risky territory, where they suddenly find a U-boat of the Kriegsmarine. Ling remarks that during the war, the Kriegsmarine didn't let anyone near this part of Antarctica, and that this coast was still dangerous. On which Martin worryingly remarks that the war is over. Major Ling repeats that phrase, but seems not fully convinced of himself, telling that the war is over. Then Batayev suddenly reconnects to the radio communication and gives coordinate instructions. However, Ling quickly warns him to turn off the subway radio after hearing a specific interference. They quickly get to the coordinates given by Batayev, where they also find the recon plane. Batayev states that by the impact crater the plane was destroyed on ground. Barton requests an explanation of Ling, who wants to tell him later because he wants to urgently leave. Right on cue, an unidentifiable flying object appears visible with only a bright red light. A battle commences between the tanks and the UFO. Batayev almost taken out with one shot by the UFO. Then he counters the flying object by firing his harpoon at the saucer. With a direct hit, the saucer emits a high-powered electrical voltage down the cable of the harpoon, electrocuting Batayev and his tank. After that, the UFO leaves the scene. Luckily, Batayev survived the voltage, and when he regained composure, they continue even further until suddenly the ice breaks underneath them. The team fall down a German uranium mine with barrels marked with fire hazard warning signs, but also crates marked with the Spanish words Shadow Sol 1937 and Danger, risk of something called inhalation, indicating some collaboration with a South American country, presumably Argentina, where a lot of Nazis fled after the war. After the discovery, they find the exit and leave the mine. But on the way out, someone is tracking the commanders with a binocular. Yeah, that is quite the great storyline. This was the first video where I started to see some World of Tanks lore in it, alongside with Murney and the last Waffentrager also occurring around this time. I might see some overlap between those. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's move forwards towards the next season. Season 5, like the other seasons, again new commanders, new core tanks and new bounty equipment. However, in addition, from Season 5 onwards you can also earn Battlepass points from daily mission, which is very nice for players that occasionally play the game but gain more points from these daily missions. This way, completing all of the 3 stages without paying for them seems a lot more achievable this way if you play on a daily basis. In addition to the standard lineup of rewards, you get a very special medal in the end. Why making a fuss about a medal? Well, because it's called the Fata Morgana medal. Yes, that's right, the same name as the newest frontline map, in which we now can say it's located not somewhere in the Middle East, but in South America. Nah, just kidding. I mean, the architecture just screams Arabic to me. But you never know for sure what is what and where in this universe. Like the previous season, we get another cinematic video. Maybe we can find more answers in them from the cinematic video of previous season. In Operation Phantom Part 1, we are introduced to an ominous figure in the mist. On closer inspection, this is actually the WoT, the German super mega tank armed with a Bismarck-class battleship cannon turret. After that crude intro, we skip towards Jean-Marc Lemartin and Katarzyna Chodkiewicz, who are exploring an abandoned mine. In there they find a 35-meter gap indicating a space for a tank. However, Katarzyna remarks that nobody builds those kinds of tanks, where Jean-Marc quickly responded that the Germans did, and that he saw what it did with its own eyes. Maybe he saw that during the war? After nothing else is found, they leave the mine to rejoin with Raul Rodriguez outside of the Mont Desert in Argentina. We get to know that these events are 6 days after the Operation Needle from the previous season. Maybe the inscription on those boxes in the hidden mine in Antarctica led towards this operation. Since Spanish text might indicate a close collaboration between the base of the Germans and Argentina that, well, we talked about that already. After a weird remark of Jean-Marc claiming to have seen Raul in Europe, they embark towards the next objective, away from an area known as Ojo del Diablo. Then further up the road, after some heat indulging, they received an SOS message from another platoon, the 6th platoon with Fuller, Gecko and McCraw. Once they arrive at the scene, the tanks of Gecko and McCraw are already destroyed, while Fuller is missing. Then, after analyzing the surroundings for a bit, in search of the cause, Katarzyna suddenly hears something which sounds like a German word, Laus or Lauf, and encounters a whole squad of Panther tanks on top of the hill. Shortly after, also Jean-Marc gets a visionary image of the WoT on the other side of the area. And that cliffhanger forms the end of Part 1. Part 2 continues the frightful scene against the Panthers and the WoT. However, when Raul spotted multiple rockets being launched, he activated his filters in order to counter the smoke emitted by those rockets. But by doing that, he realized that they are illusions as clean air gets filtered into his tank. With this revelation, he commanded Jean-Marc and Katarzyna to do the same. Luckily, they both snap out of their illusion for just a moment and listen to Raul to turn on their filters against the intoxicating fumes that are inhaling. After having worn off the strong hallucinogenic fumes, they continue to find the T-110E4 of Fuller. Then Raul realized that landmines are placed around the area since no enemy threat was near and Fuller was alone in the field. With the announcement of mines, Jean-Marc suddenly remembers that Raoul is in fact Douglas MacCreed, an infamous tanker from the war. Katarzyna knows that with the presence of landmines, they are close to an important target location. With a hill that is not marked on the map, the platoon follows up the path under the lead of Douglas, who clears the way with his minesweeper. After a short while, Katarzyna's tank sensor picks up radiation from a bunker where they see an unidentifiable plane that is currently taking off. A risky attempt was made to stop the plane without shooting it down. However, they were too late to stop the plane from taking flight. Douglas informs the plane with the radioactive cargo towards the colonel, who immediately sends out interceptors to catch it. Right as the dust settles and the platoon drives up to investigate, the hangar building itself explodes, leaving them once again in the dust as the plane leaves. Somewhere else in an office, a call is made that the cargo is on its way. On the desk of the office laying documents regarding Max von Hoffman, or as we now know for a while, is actually Max von Krieger. So even though this video is already 2 years old, I was screaming of excitement when I saw that name again, solidifying these cinematics within the World of Tanks lore by including none other than the World of Tanks lore kingpin himself, von Krieger. Having these videos within the Battle Pass is so great. Because of the reoccurrence, we get to know more and more about the events right after the war, giving more stories about the World of Tanks. I sure hope that these kinds of stories continues and Wargaming doesn't slowly stop with these, and well, I know, put totally unrelated subjects in these Battle Pass storylines. Season 6. Luckily, in the last season of 2021, the story continues with 3 new commanders and tanks. All other aspects of the Battle Pass remained the same from the previous seasons of the year, but now the story got contained in the general overview video of the Battle Pass of the season within the first 4 minutes. It only featured a meeting between the colonel and the 3 new tank commanders, Christophe Lemartin, Louise Hamilton and Andrei Pokrovsky. Within the meeting, the commanders get briefed about events of the previous 2 seasons of the year. During the debrief, it has been told that the events leading to Operation Needle were due to suspicious activity of the enemy submarine fleet in the South Atlantic region that was discovered during general investigations. The eventual discovery of Operation Needle was described as an enemy underground uranium mining facility with equipment belonging to the Sierra de la Sombra company, which evidently was a company, presumably of Argentinian origin, that went bankrupt and was closed. However, other mine sites were located in the southern deserts of Argentina, which led to Operation Phantom. From the results of that operation, the unknown plane was analyzed and concluded to be a resemblance of an intercontinental mortar bomber. Due to its speed, it escaped the previous intercept attempt and flew towards another region in Antarctica, Ellsworth Land, that had presumably a natural occurring permanent fog. However, with the recent intel, it could very well be set up by the enemy in order to be hidden from aerial footage. When ground platoons were sent to the area, they were met with substantial forces in the region and only 1 survivor returned. For now, intel is needed before a full-scale operation could be launched. This job is assigned to the commanders to infiltrate the enemy facility and capture a prisoner. From the accounts of the survivor, they were attacked by German tanks of an unknown modification featuring strange camouflage. In order to improve the success chance of the operation, the vehicles of the commanders were concealed with a similar type of camouflage that was observed. Additionally, from the experience of Captain Medaev from Operation Needle, the air defense system of the vehicles were significantly improved in order to counter a potential return of the unknown flying object. As a final note, the colonel remarks that they still don't know why the enemy needs this radioactive material or what they're going to do with it. However, time is of the essence. And that concludes the operations of the lineup of seasons from 2021. Unfortunately, we don't get to see more of the actual operation for these commanders, or well, even a conclusion on how it ended. But it still keeps up some interesting lore and continuation of events from previous season. I'm just hoping they can keep up with this storyline in the seasons of next year, but the amount of lore and background events to these stories keeps coming and coming. I'll definitely must make an additional video to cover it all, but for now we know that the Germans are still active post World War II, hiding away in remote locations, that Max von Krieger is involved with them, and that they're using uranium for some goal. This goal can be ranging from fuel for that UFO, or to build an atomic bomb, which the Germans were actually attempting to do in real life during the Second World War, but didn't succeed in time. Season 7, so the first season of 2022, gets announced with a new rules next to the reoccurring changes in tanks and commanders. First, you can complete chapters in any order from this season onwards. Very nice if you want to go for a specific style. We're to believe that beforehand you are forced to go through certain styles first. In addition, you can pause and change between chapters at any time as well. The first version of the progressive styles can all three be obtained right away, which are in itself already good looking styles. You have a different interaction menu when picking the equipment and crew books of your choice. Very much quality of life changes, but we also get new tanks join the roster for tokens. The Lorraine 50T is quite the unremarkable French heavy tank with some armor but lackluster DPM. Far more interesting is the Cobra, which has a 4-shell autoloader with heat and hash shell types. With the intra-clip reload of 1.5, this tank could wreak havoc with its 1960 potential burst damage within 4.5 seconds. These tanks were quite the typical releases by Wargaming at the time, with poor new tank introduction, with either being too broken or too underpowered. And finally, later up the season, a tank marathon got included within the Battle Pass, giving out even more points and rewards with it. Very nice to combine these for the grind. But most importantly, how does the story behind the Battle Pass continue? Well, it's kind of lackluster. It seems to be just some cinematic bits within the general Battle Pass video, contain regular tank combat with special commanders in a platoon. No clear storylines, no text or imagery featuring more lore, just combat and some character trait establishment. Even with some theory crafting, I don't really come that far. The scenery of a ruined Runeberg might indicate the Nazi Germany offense after acquiring the nuclear arms from previous year, but it ain't just German tanks that they're fighting against, so that indicates a bigger faction that counters the established alliance that we have followed for now as a very powerful collaboration of countries worldwide. But that is far more theoretical, and even with that we don't even get the slightest of mentions about the alliance, the operations of previous year, nothing. It's just some blank promo video for the Battle Pass, which is very disappointing after a year of videos that greatly built into the lore. Just such a bummer that it seems to be abandoned completely. Season 8, the second season of 2022, got no further changes except a radical theme change with the commanders and tanks. In collaboration with Warhammer 40k, styles and commanders with that game aesthetics were getting implemented. The story itself is, well, quite plain again. 3 factions trying to get towards the recently uncovered relic called the STC. No idea what it stands for. Maybe it's within the Warhammer 40k lore, something interesting. Probably making more sense within that lore.
The STC, the standard template construct, that's like kind of a blueprint for some kind of technology, right?
Yes, that's what it is. So it's like, imagine if it's a blueprint that you could put into, say, something like a 3D printer, and it would just create this. Or it could be a new kind of tank, it could be, you know, a new weapon, it could be a new kind of computer. You don't know. Right. It's from the lost age of technology. So.
But I want World of Tanks lore from the battle passes. So nothing interesting to be found here, especially since this is a one-off story with the Warhammer collaboration. Season 9, the last season of 2022, brought my hopes up a bit at first with the return of more traditional historical realism with the tanks and commanders. However, we don't even get cinematics about potential storylines anymore. The only cinematics we get with maybe a storyline is that the vehicles are featured in the Overlord map and are from the Alliance countries that entered the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. Maybe we can use some snippets of information for only this little detail of the video. I just don't know. The only real novelty of this season is the debut of a light tank with a progressive 3D style, the AMX 13105. Further, nothing else. Season 10, the first season of the year 2023, brings some new features to the table. Next to the standard tanks and commanders, 2 new tanks can be unlocked with tokens, the Kampfpanzer III Projekt 07HK and the BZ-58-2. The KPZ being a German S-tank with a siege mode similar to the Kunstpanzer, and the BZ, a Chinese version of the 50TP with slightly better mobility and gun handling, but worse hull armor. Nothing really remarkable, but most importantly quite balanced, neither overperforming nor underperforming. Keep that shit up, please, Wargaming. Another addition were the collections, which are elements that reveal more about the story of Season 10 and Commanders. Finally, we got some storylines again. I want to have them all and uncover... What do you mean I get only 10% of all the collectible items? I even completed the full stage, that's at least 1/3. So yeah, this was quite the issue. Not game breaking or anything, but very frustrating for someone like me who is actually a bit interested in some lore. And well, by the way, 10% is a rough estimate because unlike what has been said in the video, collection aren't currently in the battle pass anymore. So I couldn't even look back to see how much elements I actually had. But it was way too little for the amount that I actually played and completed the battle pass. Also, I missed out on some tokens as well. This way, just what the fuck, Wargaming. At least show how you can earn those collection elements. Because that was not clear at all. Just maybe randomly dropped in random battles, but how random is that? Just very poor implementation. Very poor. So at this moment I really want to say that even though I haven't got the information anymore, through the power of the internet and can find back the full description of all the collection elements. However, that isn't the case this time. I actually thought I received this information from a viewer, but that was actually for the Season 12 Battle Pass regarding more events around Murray 13. I also still need to make a final follow-up video for it. But I cannot find the completed collections of Season 10 noted down anywhere. So tough luck in this case, I guess. For now, I just cannot retrieve the necessary information to tell the story. But luckily it seems that there was little interest in the storyline, so having ties to a bigger lore story like Season 4, 5 and 6 is far less likely. It's probably more of the story like Season 7 and Season 9, not being really related towards a bigger storyline, so we don't have to miss out on some big additional lore pieces. But it's quite sad how the great stories of the Battle Pass have fallen down into oblivion and no one seems to be interested in that element anymore. So in conclusion, the Battle Pass as an addition to the game is definitely a great addition. Getting more rewards for just playing the game gets a big pass in my books, especially if those rewards are full on tanks. The several elements makes it viable for both casual players and overactive players. The paid version in its form of the improved pass is understandable on its own, but adding more strong equipment pieces that can improve game performances is a step too far, and another pay-to-win element added to this already pay-to-win game. The addition of special commanders with some backstories that really hit a high in the seasons of 2021 were amazing additions, getting more into the feeling behind the actions and events linked to the Battle Pass. Unfortunately, it fell down from 2022 towards more one-off stories, featuring sometimes collaborations with completely other forms of media. It still has some good and funny collaboration, nothing wrong there, but if you are holding a tasty juicy steak of lore in front of me, don't just suddenly take it away again. So for improvements to the Battle Pass itself, little to remark on next to the balance of impactful rewards behind the paywall. The collection should return and in a far better way implemented and also not behind a paywall, which apparently it partially was for some goddamn reason, or make the content of those collections available afterwards. Well, not the cosmetics necessarily, just the text. Because for you guys it's just text, but for me it can be lore content. Speaking of which, with the lore content of the Battle Pass analyzed, I might have enough to make a full-on World of Tanks lore video regarding the TCU, the Tank Connected Universe.
Ah, this is a completely different story. I will tell it to you the next time.
Well, stay tuned for that some half a year or a year from now on, depending on how busy I get in real life. And with that, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Laters.